Hi everyone, welcome back to Thursday. My name's Claire Manning from Thirsty Brush and I'm going to be doing a craft demonstration for you today with a bit of a difference because I'm not going to be making a card. I'm going to be making a t-shirt with some iron-on vinyl and one of our Thirsty Brush designs. So I'm going to turn it from a die cut into something that you can use to transfer onto t-shirts or pillows or whatever you want, whatever you can use heat transfer vinyl for. And we'll be talking about vinyl a little bit more throughout today's show. So this project does require either a brother scan and cut of any variety, or a Cricut machine, or a Silhouette, Cameo, any of those type of machines where it's not a standard die cut. It's essentially like a plotter. So you've got a blade and it will cut different materials. And the reason that you need that rather than a die cut machine is that these type of machines allow you to cut part way through a material. So that's really good for vinyl, as you'll see throughout the project, because you need to be able to cut through the vinyl but leave it on the transfer sheet to be able to iron onto your t-shirt. So I am fully aware that that excludes some people who haven't got these machines at the moment in being able to do this project right now. But because it's National Craft Month and we do cards all the time and things like that, I just wanted to try something different. So even if you haven't got one of these type of machines, I hope you just enjoy watching, seeing if you could do something different with die cuts, and maybe inspire you, if you were thinking of getting something like this, of the type of things that you can do with it. They are more expensive machines than die cutting machines generally. So I think it's important that you can do lots of different things with them and see their capabilities really. I don't play with mine enough, certainly for paper crafts, but then I've recently discovered and finally cracked how to use the vinyl, and now basically everything in my house is going to get vinyled up. Whether it's with Thirsty Brush designs or other stuff that I'm designing myself on my computer. So if you'd like to hear more about that, then let me know. I can always do some future videos. So I'll come back to the scan and cut in a minute. So how do we turn a die cut into something that our scan and cut or other types of cutting machines can read? So this is the die cut I'm using. And I think a few of you might have got hold of this in the sale. I know we didn't have many of them, but lots of you will have this already. No, it wasn't Bright Border. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I will link it anyway, the name of it. And we've got this strength die as well from one of our A4 sentiment die cut sets. So obviously our machine has a blade on. So we cannot just, people talk about scanning your die cuts. So just go back to real basics, because when I first heard, before I had a scanning cut, and I heard that phrase, I thought they meant that you physically scan and put this die piece into your machine and somehow it read it that way and allowed me to cut it out. That's not what happens. So when people are talking about scanning dies, they don't mean physically putting it in. So, you know, as I say, I didn't even know what the machine did or was capable of, and I thought that's what it meant. And thank God I didn't try and force feed a piece of metal. So what it actually means is that you cut out a piece of card. I tend to stick to black when I'm doing this first part of the process, and you'll see why now. So just cut it out of card, and then with your scan and cut, I can't remember whether this came or I bought it separately, there's this scanning mat. So this is very different from your cutting mat that are sticky. This has, it's called Only for Scanning, the Scan and Cut 12 by 12 mat. And it's got this kind of acetate type flap there. So what this is going to do is I'm going to just do these two first. I want this to be a different colour, so we'll come back to that in a moment. So this is going to feed into your machine and allow the machine, doesn't matter if it's straight, I'm just doing that for your purposes so you know roughly what the design looks like. This is going to allow the machine to, it's as if you were scanning into a printer type thing, and you're going to get a digital image of this. So it sounds very strange, doesn't it? I'm going to make a t-shirt. The first thing I need to do is cut out a piece of cardstock. Don't worry, this is not what we're putting onto t-shirt. We're not putting card onto it. So that's just in there. Do not hold it with tape. Make sure it's nice and clean. So I very often go over it with a lint roller and just make sure there's no dog hair or all sorts of bits. You can clean up your image after, which I'll show you, but just make sure there's no real big bits of anything in there to get in the way. So pop that aside for a second while I just show you the settings I'm going to do on my scan and cut. So I'm just going to turn it on. I think I am. Is it plugged in? There we go. So you can lift this screen up, but obviously I'm going to leave it flat so you guys can see. So home screen, this always just pops up. It's telling you to keep your hands away because as soon as you turn it on, it moves the blade a little bit. There we go. So normally when I'm cutting things out from my scan and cut, horse is crying now in his cage. I just wanted him to be fully away from any of these blades, so I've left him in his crate. Can you hear him? So pattern is when I want to use a stored design that's in the machine or something from one of my USBs. So in this case, we're going to scan. Horse, please. And we're going to scan to cut data. That should save it into our machine for us. So it's saying create, draw data from images. Okay, so we need to put in the map now with what we're scanning. And press load. Okay, and then when we press play, it's going to scan it. Let's just double check these settings. They should be on the standard. Yeah, I just want black and white. You can do a colour scan, but the scanning on this, it's not absolutely the best. You want really nice crisp images, and I think sometimes when I've done things in colour, it's just confused it a little bit more. So I'm going okay, and then I'm going to scan it in. It's going to do its thing. Just takes a minute or two to process. This is the most basic scan and cut, by the way. I got it a couple of years ago, the CM300. I know there's a DX and all that since. I'm also considering whether to change to Cricut because I do now I'm starting to do a lot of my own designs. This one isn't Wi-Fi enabled, and I like to be able to use software on my laptop to be able to create my own designs. Then I just want to be able to ping them to, which I know you can do on the SDX, I think, the Scan and Cut SDX, but I find the software that comes with Cricut rather than Brother. I've had to play around with the software before buying a machine because the software is free to download, and it seems more intuitive to me, and there's loads more images available to use if I'm not going to be using my own, obviously. So there we go. Now, can you see on that little screen, we've got a digital version of the border. Let me just take the mat out now, just to get that out of the way so I can play around with this. So is it gonna, yeah, so you've got these three buttons here. The top one is just going to give you an outline. Now this die piece, it's got all that beautiful detail. So we want to choose this one, which is basically got a picture of like an inner outline and an outer one. There we go. So that's much better. So that's what we want. Save that, and then it should cut it out almost identically. I'm just going to save it to my machine for now. You have got a certain amount of storage on these, but generally I'd use USBs, but for this purpose I'm just going to save it to the machine. Okay, so it's automatically called it file 13. That's fine, so I know where to send to find it. And that's it. Now we need to come out of the scanning part. So I go back home and it says delete. Don't worry, that's not going to delete what you've just saved. What that means is it's not going to save what's now on the screen, so you could technically play around with it more and save a couple of different versions. So that's okay. Now, do you remember when I said we use pattern when we want to find something that's on the machine? And then we go save data and the machine. And it will be, what did it name it? 13. There we go. Okay. That's the one we want. And we need to group some of these together. So this is what it looks like now, but all the individual pieces are separate, so I can't move them around or resize them without it ruining the design. So if we press this button here with the red squares, and then this one will group everything together. So press OK, and then it should allow us to move it around the screen. So I always put things in a corner for cutting on vinyl, wherever I'm going to put my material on my mat when I cut using the machine. Let's try that. There we go. That's it. So you have to pick the one where you highlighting everything together, and then these little arrows, and then so 7 inches is how much in mils? 150 mils is 6 inches. So let's go up. Because it's grouped it all together, it's doing the height at the same time. So 175 will be 7 inches. Let's try and go up to 8 and see how that works. Okay. Move it back. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Let's see if we can now get it ready to cut. So I'm going okay. Right, just before I pop in some vinyl and press cut on that, let's have a quick chat about a cutting mat and vinyl. So this is my heavily used cutting mat. This is the standard mat, but I've re-stuck it a couple of times because they seem to be really difficult to get hold of at the moment. So you have this carrier sheet, excuse me, that makes a lot of noise, to put on when you finished using it to keep it really sticky. See, I need to give it a wipe. There's dog hair and all sorts. So the vinyl I'm going to be using today is this really cute holographic vinyl. So there's different types of vinyl that you can use to make things for with your scanning cut or other cutting machine, and they come in all sorts of different finishes: matte, shiny, metallic, holographic, glitter. I'll show you a few that I've got. These are vinyls for sticking on things like glass, mugs, home decor, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got heat transfer vinyl as well, which is what we're using today for a t-shirt. So you can use those for pillows, tea towels, t-shirts, anything that you can basically iron onto that's quite a smooth fabric. So this is a 12 by 12 sheet. Oh, putting it the wrong way. I was just about to say, make sure you put it down the right way. So, always shiny side down. And you can use a brayer if you need to really smooth that out. Now, the one thing to remember as well, because you're putting it upside down, is to, if you're using things like words, so we will be in a little while, to mirror it. I don't think it's really going to matter so much with this floral design, but we could go back. Should we see if we can mirror the whole thing? Trying to remember where the mirroring is. There we go. So in the same screen, which was this one here, with the square and the arrows. So if we go into there, you've got this mirroring tool here. So like I say, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference on this floral piece, but to make it look exactly as you saw it when you cut it out, you mirror it. But it is very, very important if you're using letters or sentiments. So let's go OK, right through to cut. And then we're going to double check our blade settings here. So for vinyl, each pack of vinyl that you get from different places is going to be different, slightly different settings. I do normally do tests as well, maybe a little heart or a star or something like that to check, but I've already done that ahead of time for this. So at the moment I've got my blade on just under 3. Some vinyls I've got that are thicker need 4, like the glitter ones in particular need more like a 4, but you want enough to go through your vinyl but not the carrier sheet that it's on. Now we've got our vinyl shiny side down, I need to pop that into the machine, and then I need to find our file to cut. So I'm going into the save files on the machine, and there's our design. Press OK on that. And then we want to group everything together so we can resize if we want to. So if we press this little button with the red squares and press this one here, see it highlights all the different parts. When it scans, if there's any gaps or anything like that, it literally just puts everything as different pieces. Horse, shush. Press OK on that. And then this one here will allow us to resize the entire image. So again, don't worry because I didn't scan it completely straight. That's not an issue. What we want to do is we're going to cut them out and iron them on in 2 separate pieces. So this button here, the square with the arrows, that allows us to change the height. So 150 mil is about 6 inches. So I want to change this to about 8 inches, which is 200 mil. And because we've grouped it all together, it's changing the height as well as the width. And then I can position it on my mat to cut. Excuse me. Just shut the door by himself in a mood. So if we press OK, and then we can go to our cut settings. So just keep OKing if you're happy with that. The reason we're not doing the sentiment out of this one is that I want the sentiment to be a different colour of the holographic. So we're going to press cut here and then double check our settings. So I've done a couple of tests. This particular vinyl, I go just under blade setting 3, like 2.5 to 3, and cut pressure 0. Don't worry about the cut speed so much, or the draw speed. We're not drawing here. Cut speed I tend to leave at 1, particularly when I'm using quite delicate materials like this. So I'd rather just, if I can see it going wrong, keep an eye on it. Sometimes if you have it too quick, it can feed in a material. Anyway, let's get on and cut that. So now it's telling me it's going to take 5 minutes, and I'm going to press the play button. So this should cut through the vinyl, which the backing of the vinyl, I know it looks strange, but it is this black piece. The shiny piece underneath is actually just a clear carrier sheet. So let's press play and let it do its cut. Then I'm going to repeat the whole process, scanning and cutting for my sentiment. I need to repeat the whole process now for the sentiment, the strength sentiment that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to scan it in the right way, and you might think, well, if you've got to mirror it anyway, why don't you just scan it in the other way around? But you never know, I might want to use this particular sentiment for something else on another project where I do want it the right way. So I always tend to scan things in the right way round, and then if I need to mirror it for a particular project, I can do. So I need to group all that together. Group everything and make it one piece. And then I'm going to pop it up here and then flip it. Okay, so that's now ready to cut. Keep the same settings as before because this is the same brand of vinyl. So I've got my blade on just under 3 and my pressure on 0. Okay, I've done my cutting, so this can go aside, and I just need to now trim down my piece of vinyl. So I've got my 2 floral pieces and my scissors and the sentiment, sorry. So before I begin to weed, which is take out all the negative pieces, I'm just going to chop round vinyl that I don't need so I can put that aside for another project. I think maybe my blade was slightly too high still. It's almost, can you see, it's almost cut through the transfer sheet, but not to worry, I'm sure we'll manage to just about do it. So I've got the top piece and the bottom piece floral. Horse, please stop crying, darling. So next to weed, so take the pieces, and we need to get rid of the negative. So I use a weeding tool like this, which is just a cheap one, or you can get scan and cut ones. And I start off by just taking the weeding tool to the corner. All right, you can go out in a minute, darling. And just peeling back the negative space around the design. It's not going to take the middle bits out at this point. It's just going to take out the edges. Don't worry if your vinyl tears. Some of them are more delicate than others. It's going to leave behind the bits that you need. So these are just bits that you don't end up in the bin anyway. And then you need to carefully go in and use the point to remove all those bits of detail of the flowers. Can you see? So it does take a bit of time when you've got an intricate design like this, but just enjoy the process, and it is worth it to get a really cool, pretty t-shirt. Okay guys, so I've weeded out all the negative parts of my design. So I've got the 2 floral parts. Oh, excuse me. It's okay, did I make you jump? I had a really hard time weeding this vinyl compared to others. This is the first time I've used the holographic. So I made a couple of nicks in it there. So I hope it's going to be okay. So I've got my border and my sentiment. So you can use any kind of plain t-shirt. What you want to do is, before, I'm just going to show you, can't get my camera over my ironing board, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to layer it out and explain the, oh, this got his bare now, the instructions. So I've got a plain t-shirt here that I just got from Amazon, and what you want to do is heat up your iron to full, and then do where you're going to put your design, warm it up a little bit. So just move it around, move the iron around, and that kind of prepares the t-shirt, and I find that you get a better press doing it like that. Oh my goodness, how annoying is that? So then I just need to trim off a little bit more of this carrier sheet. Then what I'll do is I'll place my design onto my t-shirt where I'm going to iron it. So I'm going to have the top and the bottom, and my sentiments. So you don't want your transfer sheets or your carrier sheets, these clear bits, to overlap, which is why I'm trimming down as much as I can. Maybe if I'd have done this before weeding, it would have been a little bit easier, but again, I am still learning here as well. So I want that to go in between. And then I'll make sure that's straight. And before I give it a press, you want to put something over the top of it that is thin, kind of cotton or polyester. So I've tried a few things like tea towels and pillowcases, and I found a thin pillowcase, you know, both layers, that seems to work. So you need to put that on and then press your iron on, and I find heating it for about 30 seconds on full with light pressure on the iron seems to work well. You can always go back in and do another press if you want to, and then you peel back. So we'll come back to the peeling for the reveal in a moment. I'll go and do my ironing. Okay, so I'll give it a good press. I did 2 presses at 30 seconds just to make sure it was really on the material. So I've done my ironing, and now it's ready to peel back. Just bear in mind, some vinyls say peel back the transfer sheet while it's still warm. So when they mean warm, they don't mean as soon as you've lifted the iron. Just give it a few seconds to cool off. This one that I'm using today says to cool peel it back. So it's pretty much all cool. Horse, no. Good boy. So let's have a look and see if it's all stuck down. So we should just be able to peel this back. Yay! It's worked. Let's go from this side, that middle bit. Because it almost cut through, I might have had my blade on. That was just a little bit awkward to peel back, but... So we've got the sentiment. Oh, this is all working great. And how cool does that holographic look? Do we need a tiny bit more heat? Yeah, it's pulling that little bit. Might need to go over. The great thing about this kind of vinyl is that if there is a bit like that that hasn't quite stuck, just put your pillowcase back on and give it another heat through. But I am really pleased with that. How super cute does that look? They do say most vinyls, depending on the where you get it from again, that most of them will last a good 50 washes before. Yeah, I'm going to give it another press just to give it. But you get the idea. So you can have a play if you've got this kind of cutting machine, and you can get some really, really cool effects. All sorts of different designs that you could use, those brush ones. So have a play, and I hope that gives you some inspiration. If you haven't got a cutting machine like this, maybe use some cardstocks that you've got, some holographics and metallics, and do a similar design on a card maybe. But there's something different to do, isn't it? And something fun, and to push your skills. And that definitely pushed my skill with the weeding on that particular one. But I'm going to practice and get better at these kind of projects, and maybe do some more home decor and clothing projects if you'd like to see them. In the meantime, I will be back on Sunday for the Sunday Chill at 1 p.m. with another demonstration. In the meantime, take care.